going to have a town that can be proud of and that has the things that make it possible to function, because I don't think anyone wants your water not to be clean. And if you look at the pipes that just got pulled out of Main Street, you'd be appalled at what people were getting their water through. And this is the kind of stuff that's been flagged over and over the years that it needs to be taken care of, and we're finally doing it. And something has to give. So I understand nobody wants to do this, but we've done our best to try to make these increases as small as possible and really weigh the pros and cons of the increases and say, what do we really want in our town? What do we really, what's important? Is it important to have clean water? Is it important to go after money for the sewer plant? Because guess what? When we have a hurricane, guess where the sewer goes? In the creek, okay? These things need to be done. And, it's my job to make sure it gets done. And, the fact is, as long as I'm in the office, I'm going to make sure they get done. If you guys don't like it, you don't have to re-elect me. Somebody else will take over. It'll be someone else's issue. But I felt those were important things. I'm not making a lot of money. I asked for a raise this year because guess what? I'm here a lot of hours. And I do think that at some point I have to at least get paid what a typical full-time supervisor gets paid. And I'm still underpaid. There's still many people in this town that make more than I do. There's the library. How many people have showed up at the library budget to vote for that, okay? Because nobody checks to see what the librarian makes, okay? They're all worried about what the supervisor makes. And the fact is, they get a lot more time in than any librarian does. Okay? So, it's not just the town that the taxes come from. It's the school, it's the library, it's everywhere else. I have spent a lot of time making sure that this budget is as tight as I can make it. This board has asked me, how do we address the increase in mandated raises? Here's our problem. $7,000 to get someone trained, and guess what? They go get a job in another town. You know why? Because they're making $4 an hour less in this town than they make in the other towns. How do I keep doing that? Year after year, you're going to train somebody and have them move to another town? So those services are going right out the window. You're not getting trained people to do the job then.
Well, we keep losing policemen, don't we?
We lose policemen, and I'll tell you what happens. We have a part-time police department for the most part. We have one full-time officer. We cannot pick part-time policemen come from a different category than what full-time policemen. They have to take them off the list if they're full-time police officers, okay? It doesn't do that when they're part-time officers. That's the difference. Somebody that wants a full-time job is looking to get a full-time job from the list. So what we end up is the people that get trained or the people that are retired or have other jobs. So that's the trade-off. If I go to an all full-time positions, it's going to cost the town a lot more money. So, you try to balance that.
So you held the overhead on the police department.
I did.
And you don't overhead on the swimming pool.
I guess you don't swim.
I appreciate the time that you have taken and are continuing to take and the energy. I know. I just want to say, because it sounds like we're on the defense, and I mean, to a degree, yeah, we're not going to close the pool next year based on tonight's hearing.
Maybe they close the pool, close it a couple of days.
Yeah, but it's definitely thinking outside the box. I'm certainly taking note of it. I know that comments have been made, but I just wanted to throw it out there that I appreciate even the gentleman that's no longer here coming out to give us some feedback.
I don't think it's outside the box. I think it's realistic. Anyway, I'm going to put the gun to my neck now here. I think you should pass the tentative budget. You should all vote in favor of it. And that way you're going to have all this money this year. Next year, you can bring a budget in that's much lower, and then all the incumbents can get reelected because you can campaign that the budget is down. You got a big raise last year, you got another one this year, and next year you can put in the
Doesn't work that way,
literature,
though.
over in the budget.
You're running on this budget, not next year's budget.
Well, next year's budget will be coming out
After.
right now.
Right,
Before
right,
the
prior to
election, you can have it all
Yeah.
figured out, that we're down 1% or something, you can all get reelected.
Well, I'm gonna make a
None
recommendation.
of us are very strategic that way, though.
If we're talking about infrastructure, I understand there's some streetlights missing off Mountain Road.
Yeah. Do you live on Mountain Road?
No, but I hear gossip.
I live on Mountain
Right.
Road.
And they took down the street light right in front of your house.
That was a mistake.
That was a mistake?
Yeah.
I thought that was your request.
No. No, that was a mistake. It wasn't on the list.
It wasn't on your list.
Yeah, it wasn't on my list. It wasn't on the list that the board approved, and the police department approved, and the highway department approved. Yeah.
I would like to just circle back.
And all the people that walk up and down Mountain Road to go down to Main Street, now they're missing a couple of lights.
There is
There were no-
one light missing on Mountain Road right now that this board voted to take off, that hadn't been working. The light that hadn't been on for years, and in fact, there's another light that hasn't been working for years
The
on
telephone
Mountain,
company. The telephone company light isn't working either.
And we're getting off
Right.
subject here, the public hearing.
Yeah.
Right.
You have anything
Well,
else on the
well,
budget?
You're missing lights, but the budget for the lighting district has stayed the same, even though you're gonna have fewer lights.
Well, we don't know yet, but yes, you're right about that, but that should go down. We just don't know what it's
This
gonna
could
be.
be, that's just a couple of dollars.
Yeah. But we are getting some rebate money from, we did hire Comptel to review the lighting and what we've been charged over the years, and I think that it was over $30,000 in overcharges that will be portion of that will go back to the town.
Related to the budget, but it's your next line item, your next amendment. What's the big deal about going over the budget? What happens?
Nothing. It's just the town board makes a decision whether it's a smart move for the town or not.
We don't lose anything from
No.
the state?
No, they weren't getting checks this year.
There was no slap on the wrist or nothing?
No, nothing.
I would suppose it's marked in some book somewhere that we didn't meet it, you know. I don't know what the consequences are of that, but
There's no consequence.
somebody writes it down somewhere.
Does it affect your grant somewhere? or-
No, doesn't affect it.
Apparently not, and I think it's becoming more widespread in town.
I mean, we have,
I mean, across
I think
the state.
at least 3 or 4 towns that I know of already have had their public hearing and are not passing the tax cap, are overriding the tax cap because they can't make it.
Yeah.
I want to fairly quickly get back to this question of strategy, the last bullet there, which is, and it goes back to the example of putting $7,000 of training into an employee and then having them go to another town where they make $4 an hour more. And that's an instance that burns me as an employer, as a taxpayer, and it's my sincere hope, what's behind my decision-making is that a year from now, hopefully, we can point to having retained quality employees that are providing efficient, effective service that are keeping people happy. That's the sort of thing, it's not everybody deserves a raise, it's we're not able to do the business we need to do, and then we get somebody who's promising, and then we lose them after we've invested in them because we can't afford to keep them. And so that's the, I think, the biggest thing for me that's happened in the last 6 months, actually the last 3 months, that informed my thinking in terms of what we're doing in this budget and why we're going over the tax cap and the ways in which we're going over it. That doesn't account for everything, but that's my own personal thought process. And it's informed by just seeing us lose people that I was counting on both as an official and as a taxpayer, because I have neighbors too, and I need help with my neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, I think you made a very good point. I think that the other thing about that is that we are hearing tonight complaints about the taxes, but for the last year, we've been hearing the complaint about not getting the services. So we're trying to compensate, how do we find a balance for that? We need to either, you have to have the staff there, you have to have people that can do the job. And so we have to make sure that either we're keeping our staff or that we have enough staff to be able to cover the problems that come up. And what was happening is people are complaining because it's not getting addressed, it's not getting addressed. Well, that person only works part-time, they're only here a couple of days a week, or, so these are the kind of things that we're constantly getting a complaint about. We're getting the complaints tonight about raising the taxes, about raising the the numbers, but we were also getting the complaints from the public over and over that we need to have people in place to be able to provide those services. So I think that was part of the reason that some of those things are changing. There are some increase in hours for some people, for some departments that look like raises, but they're really about giving more hours to people too, because we need to cover the office more time, and that became a problem that was complained about over and over. Even though that gentleman would like to see services cut, he might want to see services cut. Then we got 20 complaints coming in because people feel like services are already cut. So that was trying to balance that between.
I was surprised to see the building inspectors, that department going up, and I thought Tom was actually working part-time, doing a great job, and now that he's retiring, there's more money in the budget for that department.
Well,
And he's not getting any part of it.
right. He actually is going to keep working about 12 hours a week, 10 to 12 hours a week, to train, because we have new staff in there that needs his guidance. He's on per diem. So that's where a little bit of that bump up is what you see there.
I think he's a great person.
But we also, we need him for his oversight. So we're talking about maybe a 1-year situation where that budget line is up a little bit because Tom is still coming in to train the new staff. And we have new staff, we have people aging out and leaving, and we have new staff coming in. So that's why you see that. The other thing that went up is the clerk in there is going to be in there full-time, where she's the clerk for planning, zoning, and building, and she was only part-time, so we wanted to make her full-time to be able to cover the office, because when they're out doing an inspection, there's nobody sitting in the desk, answer the phone, take care of the complaints or whatever. So that was part of the problem there.
When I become clerk,
Well.
she's not there
Yeah.
on the complaint.
Right, so that was one of the things that you see a big increase there, because the services, we were getting complaints about that service not being
I just
enough.
would like to have seen Tom get some of it.
Yeah, I understand. But he is gonna get some of it, he's gonna stay on it for another year.
Well, you giving him a raise?
Yes, he is getting raised.
Okay. You got him off the minimum wage now.
Yeah, you want us to raise wages. Which is it? You want them up or you want them down?
How many dogs do we have to adopt?
I want you to think about wages.
But you also have to look at if you hire someone new to take his place, and that person can go to another town after they get trained and make more money, they're gonna leave us. So you're not getting people that stay and are there to really understand everything that's going on in town and, the infrastructure of the town and how things were developed. And that's, I think this board felt it was important to try to keep staff that you've trained, that you feel you've invested in, and how do you keep them? You gotta at least be competitive to some degree, what they're making in other towns. And they're still getting these raises and they're still underpaid compared to, we didn't bump it up to what everybody else is making. We
Right.
bumped it up
Right.
a little bit, okay, to make it a little bit more palatable.
Right. And it is that big picture of comparing it to other towns, and it seems like a big increase right now, but it should have been happening.
That's right, and that's the other
And
thing.
it hasn't been happening.
You're looking at, okay, this board made this decision, but, how many years ago did it just, nobody wanted to take that step because it'll look bad, the elected officials don't like to make that move, but, what's right and what's wrong? It's a tough decision between between paying people something that they work hard for, and you have good employees and you want to keep them. And we can tell you when we've had bad employees, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare when you have a bad employee. And so, what do? You can't replace them because you don't have anybody else who's going to take the job. So it's a combination of those things, and we're very sensitive to the tax increases. I can't even tell you how many hours I spend on this to try to trim it. I crunch the numbers over and over and over. Meet with every department head, meet with them again, some of them 3 times. Sit down and crunch the numbers on my own for hours and hours. It's not something I just take lightly. I spend a lot of time to try to, people will tell you in the bookkeeping, that budget is squeaky. It's like there's no fat in each of those lines. It's down to the dollar that I figure they need to pay their people. And if I see, you didn't spend $4,000 last year, so I'm cutting you $1,000, And they're like, well, you're penalizing me because I didn't spend it. I'm like, no, that's why you don't need it. So, you don't hear that part of it, but that happens a lot,
No matter what, you're not gonna convince me about the pool.
I
I
understand.
appreciate you putting it on.
I will just tell you that this board made a decision based on public input to rebuild the pool. And we decided that, and that meant that there was going to be, at some point, when you open the pool back, there's gonna be some expenses with that.
I
So,
swam in that pool 65 years ago, 60 years ago, and water came in out of the stream in the back, nice cold water, and as I recall, it had a dirt bottom in it.
yep,
And it's constantly water running in. You didn't need a filtration system. I don't think anybody put chlorine in it. And I don't recall anybody getting sick.
right.
I'd like that.
And now
I'd
you
like to
got-
have that kind of pool.
And now you got the Board of Health probably telling you to check the water every day and put this in it, put that in
More
it.
than every day, try every hour.
Every hour.
Yeah, we're going over a cliff.
And someday they're gonna find out that all this chlorine is not good for you, and some other stuff, they're
True.
gonna change it.
So I'd like to move on unless you have any other comments.
You've been very thorough.
We need a volunteer for
Still have one
the
more
dog
public
committee.
hearing to
We can
go.
adopt the dogs and we'll
I
vote
think
that.
there'd be 1 million people there. And I was gonna sign in and have to go over there and speak in the mic and be nervous. I was all concerned about it.
That's your official seat. That's your official
All right,
seat.
let's open the public hearing for the
Thank you.
tax cap. Mandy?
Sure.
Should we close any of these
We
public
can
hearings?
probably do it after this one.
What's that?
Probably do it after the one.
Might as well
Okay.
just open this one.
Just
and
have
then
all
we'll-
of it.
we'll
Yeah,
close them all in a half
that
hour.
right now, this has to stay open from 9:00.
Okay.
All right. Please take notice that the town of Rosendale will hold a public hearing on November 2nd, 2016, immediately following the public hearing for the 2017 preliminary budget at the Town of Rosendale Municipal Building, 1915 Lucas Avenue, Pine, New York, to consider the advisability of adopting a local law which must be in effect to override the mandated tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law 3-C in the event of the unforeseen cost overruns associated with meeting contractual obligations, bond payments, funding health insurance expenses, pension contribution.
Contributions.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
What happens when they're trying to payments and fire protection districts by the order of Town Board of Town of Rosendale dated October 26, 2016, Mandy Donald.
Thank you, Mandy. So, let's move on. I don't think there's anybody who wants to, we've kind of hashed out the tax cap. Does anybody have any comments about the tax cap? Okay.
It doesn't hurt anything.
So, I will just say that, is it the board's wish to override the tax cap?
Yes.
Okay. The second thing I'm going to ask, we're going to talk about the budget. So, based on the changes that I made, would you want this to be the final budget?
Yes.
Yeah, I like everything as we went along.
Does anyone need anything clarified on those changes? Also,
So, I already asked the question about the grant, that was my only question. Everything else we've discussed.
All right, so, Mandy, we're going to use the supervisor's proposed final budget 2017 with the change that was made to the traffic control 3310.2 and the change,
Oh, no, it wasn't shared, it was the state grant.
State
State.
aid, 3089 plus 10,000. And I'll have Jill draft up those changes and get you a copy of that. And that'll be the budget that we'll vote on for next week. Everybody good with that?
So is that closing the public hearing?
We need a half hour for the 2%, cap,
Well, you
right?
can close the high
Let's
polls
close, I'll make a motion to close the High Falls Water District Budget Public Hearing.
I'll second that.
No vote, Councilman Hughes?
Yes.
Councilman Metzger?
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Wall?
Yes. We have to wait now because we have to, the 2% cap, right?
You'll have to do the preliminary voting.
We can close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Preliminary temperature.
I'm going to make them, do a resolution, 11/2016-1. Adoption of 2017 High Falls Water District Budget, whereas a duly publicized public hearing regarding the Town of Rosendale 2017 High Falls Water District Budget was held on November 2nd, 2016. Now therefore be resolved that said budget, after such public hearing, a copy of which is attached here to and made part thereof, is adopted by the Town Board of the Town of Rosendale as the official 2017 budget for the High Falls Water District.
I'll second that.
No vote, Councilman Hughes?
Yes.
Councilman Metzger?
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Wall?
Yes.
So,
So my plan is to go ahead and approve that next week. Everybody's good
Yeah.
with that? Because I think, each you guys have it in
Yeah.
anything you need to. So what do we need, 15 more minutes before the 2% cap?
Well, my question is about closing the segment for the preliminary budget, if you leave it open and people, like the other comments.
Yes, we're gonna.
Or do you want to leave it?
No, we're not leaving it.
Oh,
So I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing for the 2017 preliminary Town of Rosendale budget.
oh, second.
no vote, Councilman Hughes?
Yes.
Councilman Metzger?
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Wall?
Yes. But you're okay to vote, you want to vote next week on this?
Yeah, and the other one will close at 9 till 8.
Okay, so let's, we have to do the 2% cap before we can do the resolution for the budget, so I'd like to do that tonight, so once we close that, we'll do it. So we have some reviews for, fees for next year. I'd like to make these fees effective December 1st, 2016, so let's, take a look at them, review them briefly tonight, and then come back on the next week to finalize it. The rec fee, the Recreation Commission and Tara Burke have recommended that we add a surcharge for weddings of $500 per wedding.
Yeah, we discussed that
Mhm.
at length, the last rec commission meeting.
I think that's a good idea.
It was,
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a huge.
it was wholly undercharged for that kind of event.
I mean, we could even say.
People pay much more than that.
We could probably get away with more, but, at least we're.
You would,
Yeah.
but,
Is that the only
the
change?
commission
That was
felt
the only
was-
change, and what I've asked the boards, the commissions to do is, and boards, to look at, at this time of the year, every year I want a review of fees. It's been the habit, kind of like every couple of years, they look at fees, but, so, Rec Commission raised their fees last year, so now this is the only thing that's come up this year, so that's why you're So that would be the recommendation of the rec commission. As I will say, that was something that Tara and I had looked at and agreed to present to the commission. And I think that's a good, because there is more of an impact on the facility when we have weddings. Transfer station, building department.
Can I ask a question about that?
Which one?
The building, does that have to change in the code book, do you know?
I believe they reviewed everything that had to do with, I don't think there's anything in the code that
Yeah, I
says
wasn't
no
sure.
now. It's just, because if it did.
Typically, it says as,
As board recognized,
yeah.
right? Okay.
So there is a schedule attached that the building department worked on coming up with. Most things are between $10 and $25 increases. Does see a certificate of occupancy is 50. So other than that, I think this was a good move to.
Yeah, I remember being surprised. I called years ago. There was no fee or rules regarding fences. As long as I was on my own.
How does it compare with other towns?
That's part of the way they came up with the numbers, is by making comparisons.
I mean, that's not a lot of money. It's more about a control that people are aware of what the code is before they go putting in fence posts.
I just meant for all the fees.
There have to be this already.
Transfer station, it's been suggested by George that we have a fee for out-of-town users. He often has to turn people away, they don't live in the town. And sometimes we could benefit from the days that other towns are closed. And there's some people that are, live here part-time that maybe can get to our transfer station, but they can't get to the other transfer station. So he recommended a $60 fee for the out-of-towners for permit. If it's 40 for residents, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys feel that's,
Does that include full and limited? Because limited, like if they're just not taking household garbage? Shouldn't there be limited?
Well, it does seem like there should be,
Because it's 30 for resident, so maybe that should go with like 50.
right, and I think that probably
You're
more
kind of
likely
agree,
to
you're not
be
coming here with
limited
household
permit
garbage.
if they're out of,
No. This
I think
demographic is coming here with construction debris, renovation debris,
Oh,
to clear out the
I
garage.
thought too, because I've had people wanting, because like the Marvel Town, the conversation was open, they wanted to converse there. That's actually.
As a one-time.
No,
as a
well, like yearly. Yeah.
like what?
Like they yearly. They asked if they could get a permit for a year.
For the whole year?
Yeah.
So you're suggesting 2 tiers for out-of-towners?
I wouldn't want to make it lower than 60 because I want to make sure that we're getting some compensation for the fact that they're not taxpayers. So I think whatever it is they're doing, I'd say they have to pay 60. Whatever it is they're bringing in,
The other instance that I'm more familiar with, though I haven't asked George one versus the other, but the more common instance that I'm aware of is somebody has curbside or other delivery, but they're in the middle of a renovation project or clean out. They borrow somebody's pickup and they need it dumped someplace.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, the other thing
But then
is,
that guy comes
we have just looking at the fees a second.
Is there still road?
Full charge is going up by $13 a pull. I don't know if you guys.
That's the charge the county is.
That's Ulster, not the county.
Ulster County Resource Recovery.
So that's kind of a hit too, you're talking a couple $1,000 increase in their budget, that budget line. So, know, at this point, I don't see, he hasn't recommended any increases. I think he also is worried that we'll lose customers if we go any lower, you know, and they're not gonna come to Rosendale. Some of the other towns do have the out-of-town permit, so I think he thinks this will build up the revenue a little bit, but so I'd like to pass that. I think it's a good idea. Is everybody okay with that? Planning board fee, this has had a lot of controversy about that one.
I can, these are the other fees here, sorry, just go back. I think
Which one?
They haven't, the other fees, they haven't done them right there.
No, that was what was proposed last year. We made a change when we knew we were going to have increases for the RRA, and that was what we came up with. We had done some significant increases.
Yeah, no, I think this was the, we would want to do.
But by doing the yearly review, I think we'll, you know, if you see some lacking, we can address it as we go. So Lisa presented some suggestions to the planning board, and this is what they came up with, but I don't have the one that was her proposed, because I think John and I like to make it better, right?
Yeah, I didn't bring that.
Jill?
I guess.
Can you do me a favor? Go back and get the one that,
Handwritten?
yeah,
Why would we not charge an application
thank
submission?
you.
Well, we're
It's kind of,
considering more, raising it from 50 to 100.
yeah.
Okay.
So my suggestion, you know, I spent a lot of time on this with Teresa, and then I talked to John about it. You know, there is something that we are not supposed to charge a pre-application fee, but I believe we should charge at least $100 for an application. So, because there is usually a pre-application workshop for them, and then, as John and I have been talking about, we've got to have some of these fees cover our planner and what, you know, our consultant is getting paid. Other towns are charging by the hour based on how much time it takes to review it. And we've been incorporating our fee and not charging, unless it's a huge project, and then you have an escrow. So I think what we have to do is figure out, you know, it's $180 an hour for a review. You know, that, this 3-hour review on a simple project, you know, you gotta charge almost $600, you know, so we gotta start, you know.
We're getting quite a deal, and it's an elective project.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, I think the
Where-
planning board felt it was steep. It's not, other towns are charging for those things, you know, and I think we have to be a little bit aware, if you're gonna go and do some kind of project, you're the guy that's planning on spending money on that project. If it's not fair for the rest of the taxpayers to pay for that, so I'd like to see those increase to something more.
This isn't, I'm tacking on an extra bedroom because I need it for my family. This
Yeah.
isn't, this
Right.
is a little bit vestige. Of course, we're not allowed but.
So when Jill brings it, well, let's put this one aside until Jill brings that rough draft in, and we'll go to zoning board. Zoning board is, now, we don't typically have any review, you know, unless it's specifically there's some issue that has to be consulted for our attorney. So the only thing we could do is say, you know, like Reese is suggesting $100 as an escrow fee for each applicant to cover the public hearing, mailing, and newspaper posting, and then you reimburse them for whatever they don't. Rather than trying to go, this is a problem for both planning and zoning, we only do escrow right now for the very large projects. I think we should do escrow for every project, because every project has a mailing, has a posting, you know, we have to cover those costs. Because I don't want to be in a position,
I have the original one, but you want to switch? This is yours. I'm not sure.
Oh, this is-
Copy.
we'll get back to this, but, so I think that probably the zoning board fees are a little bit more realistic. It's, but I don't know, do you have an opinion those numbers are, they're still low compared to the
Mhm.
questions you wanna.
Yeah, you figure with every application, you're kind of mailings, printing.
Well, they
Yeah.
have to pay for that anyway.
But
So
we go
when she's
afterwards, so the
instead of-
escrow.
Right, we
Right.
should really have that money first.
Right, makes
Um,
sense.
And then the question is whether, you know, this is what we're paying now, they're paying $60, you
Yeah.
know, it's a joke. It's, it's like probably from ancient history. So 150, 100, 200 for use variance, $100 for interpretation. Seems like a little bit more realistic numbers, but I'm gonna go back and meet with her again. She has a stack of comparisons that we can go over,
Mhm.
and maybe I'll bring
With
those
other
in.
towns.
Yeah.
Like the
You have them, Jill?
It's just the other towns.
When you were on the zoning board, do you recall reviewing fees?
No, we never,
Yeah. I didn't.
Maybe I should start looking at my fees.
I was on the board
So
3.5
zoning,
years. There was never a discussion.
Marbletown, for instance, they do site plan here, so that doesn't count. Use variance is 250. We're asking 200, so it's still a little low. Area variance, 150, 100. New faults, area variance, 250 for the initial application, 500 if they have a violation, and 150 for every additional meeting.
That's why we want to.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's why our revenues are low, okay? That's what other towns are charging, we gotta bump these up.
Also, why we live here, not there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what, you know, I don't see people coming here to build because they think they're gonna get a $50 break. Yep.
$50.
Use variance, 750 for a use variance for them.
Wow.
We're paying 60 right now. We want-
$60?
That's to apply
Yeah.
for
Seven
use.
hundred and fifty?
Their initial application is 750.
You know, that's really hard because it's incredibly hard to get a use variance.
Well, we're not saying we should go up as high as new faults, but we should,
I know, I'm
we
just
should
saying.
look at how,
But
you
the
know.
use variance should be higher too, though, because everything's held to a higher standard. Everybody's, it's taking a lot more time. When we did go for legal counsel in my time on the ZBA,
It was
it
for
was
use
for
variance.
use.
Yeah, it's the most impactful.
So I got, you know,
But I'm not saying
Curly is
760.
a little bit lower, 100 for appeals, 50 for variance, 25 for every public hearing. They have things mixed together, planning and zoning, so I'm trying to figure out. But I think Marlton is a little bit more in the middle of, you know, the most highest and the lowest, and she's picked a little bit, numbers that are a little bit lower than what Marbletown is, but, you know. So the question is, do we want to go with that suggestion, or do we want to bump it up anymore?
John had made a comment about the planning board is, what was the adjective you used? Somebody's getting planning permits. It's not required, whereas zoning board,
Elected.
elected, thank you.
Right.
The zoning board, what we always saw, and I was on it most often, people didn't know the law until after they wrote it. So I favor
A
these
lower-
increases, but keeping it low
Okay.
relative.
So let's, if everybody agrees with that, we'll say the zoning board fees that have been proposed will be what we approve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I think
let's look
those
at
are-
the planning board.
Those are reasonable.
So the planning board fees, when you look at this list, I'm gonna give you the numbers what she proposed. She proposed to the board $100 for the application fee. They wanted it to be zero. She proposed $250 for the special use permit, and they said $225. And she proposed $75 for every dwelling or 1,000 square foot, so that stayed the same. She proposed $400 for site plan review, and they said $375. 150 for every dwelling or 100 square feet, and they said 125.
We basically went down 25 on everything.
Yeah.
She suggested 300 on existing structure, and they said 275. And they left the $100 the same. And then the lot line adjustment, she suggested 200, and they wanted 175. And the minor subdivision, she suggested 300, they said 275. And 65 was the same for the lot. And they had something different, which she had suggested for major subdivision, 400. They said 500.
I was gonna
So
say,
they
I
went
would
up.
have bumped that one higher.
Yeah, so they went up to 500, and then $100 per new lot for major subdivision, 3 to 5. They broke it up by the number of lots, so.
I think we should bust that down to 475.
You're a planning board member? So, do you like the ones on the major subdivision suggestions? Let me just tell you what, planning board for Marltown, major subdivision, 450 and 125 for every lot. For under 10 lots. If it's over 10 lots, it's 550 plus with 135. Major subdivisions of 20 or more is 650 plus 150. So I think this is kind of comparable to what they're doing.
I'm definitely supportive of that.
Yeah, that's like a little teeny particle in the overall scheme.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now the town of New Paltz, let's see. Now, this is on a zoning. I don't know where the planning board is. She didn't give me the planning board, sorry. Earlings are, special use is 200, site plan is 150, excavation soil mining is 500, visual assessment review is 150 per lot, subdivision application is 200. I like the numbers they came up with. Are you guys okay with that on those?
$100 application fee, application submission fee.
Well, so let's ask the question, do we want to go with Risa's proposal, or do we want to go with the planning board's dumb down on these?
75.
Huh?
Go down 25, 75.
I kind of like the bigger numbers myself,
Yeah, I do too.
because they're
Well,
matching, I mean, they're closer to offsetting our real costs,
Yeah.
but they're also nice, easy, round numbers.
The other thing is, let's say, it's a three-hour review, 1 times 3 is 540. If somebody pays an application of $100 and they have a special use permit, they're only paying $350 plus the 75, maybe we're getting close to that 540 of the cost too, that's what I want to see. I want
and
to
that's
see
just
us
the
cover
cost
that.
of a consultant, not
Yeah.
volunteer hours or staff time.
No, we're not counting the volunteers, but even the staff is, but you gotta figure the consulting fees.
Right, I just wanted to clarify that that's.
Yeah, and some. So even for Marbletown, includes initial guidance conference, application review, professional planner at planning board meeting. So they're saying that's included in that, but Brisa had talked to some of the towns, and some of them say, you get 3 hours review or something like that, or whatever, your fee is. If it goes over that, then they're gonna pay more. I mean, maybe we don't do that this year, but this, to get things started, to be closer to what we're spending, I think we
Yeah.
have to at least do this, and then we can
Right,
say,
right.
next year, look at it and say,
Yeah.
do we need to be, almost getting clocking it in and seeing what it takes? How many weeks are they, how many different town board meetings, planning board meetings are they attending, and getting help from the consultant? So that's kind of at some point, we have to probably evaluate that. But I also
Right,
would
that would
like
be
to
good.
add that there's an escrow to every, I think we should add that there's an escrow. So let's say that $100 escrow fee too. Are you guys okay with that? Because,
Yeah. that
you
should
know, if
cover
you have a
it.
site plan or a special use permit,
So,
Yeah.
or a subdivision, you're gonna have to, there's gonna be some mailings, so $100 just for the, what's the advertisement, Mandy, for the Freeman?
Depends on the,
So give us a round up number. $20 and then $6 or $7 for every mailing, right? So if they have
a letter, 1/3 person.
Yeah. So you say, what is this, $750 or $650?
646.5.
Alright, so let's say 6 times 10, $60 a figure, and if they had 20, so that's $80 right there. You know, you gotta figure it's gonna be at least $80 for, I think we should add the escrow, $100 escrow fee.
And postage is going back up, so.
Yeah. So, I would say that her proposals were based on her doing an evaluation of, she spent a lot of time evaluating what others, and trying to find something kind of in the middle, looking
I
at
like
what we,
it.
you like it. So, you wanna bump it back up to what her recommendations were?
I do.
Except for I like the major subdivision that the board came up with.
I'm fine.
Yeah. You guys like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the recreation fee schedule? Are we good with those?
Yes,
Hmm?
I am.
Is this representing a change?
She didn't say whether that was a change. I don't remember what they are.
Correct.
The recreation fee
The
schedule?
only thing that went up was,
No, there's a recreation fee per
On the
lot.
back of the page, the back of the thing.
This is the one-time fee that's being paid in the town to offset.
Oh, yeah.
that
Yeah, if you
You've
have,
got a subdivision.
you don't
you
have,
Right,
introduce
you
it.
don't have
right.
recreation. Does this look backwards to you?
it does. Why is
Just
it
realize
more
that.
money with less?
Yeah, I think it's backwards. I'll have her look at that. I don't think it's
This is,
backwards. I'm like,
This
am I dreaming here?
Right.
It's backwards.
this is exactly how Central Hudson calculates.
Backwards?
If you use less energy,
Yeah.
they charge
They pay
you
more.
more.
Yeah.
And delivery.
Jen, we cannot ever talk about anything back before it goes back to energy.
It's better.
All right, so I'll just check with her on those fees. That looks like there's an error there.
Could we go over the other fees, just, I'll adjust them back up. There was an additional, basically just add 25 for everything.
Well, we're gonna add $100 to the escrow. We're gonna say $100 for the application fee. We're gonna add $50 to the application fee.
Right.
So then we're gonna say that the special use permit is gonna go to $250.
Okay.
The site plan review is gonna go to $400 and $150 instead of $125. And the that's for new structures.
Mhm.
Existing is gonna be $300. The 100 is stays.
Okay.
And then the lot line adjustment is $200. The minor subdivision is $300.
So, sir, are you saying to bump it back up, or is that what you're?
That was John's
Yeah,
suggestion.
yep.
We are sorry that they spent a whole meeting arguing about this, but.
This
you
is
know.
very reminiscent of the full race, by the way.
Yeah, and the planning board loves those freestyle, wild discussions.
I have no share of libertarians.
It's pure debate.
I can hear the exact voices in this argument. I love it.
All right, so we're gonna accept the zoning board fees as recommended, and we're gonna bump up the planning board fees as we just discussed.
Great. So, we'll act on this next week.
Yeah, we're gonna do it next week, because we still have to go back and clean it up.
Yeah, you have
Right.
my
Okay,
agenda
right.
almost right now.
Sorry.
Something thing.
motion to close the public hearing for the interstate mandated 2% tax cap for 2017.
I'll second.
Oh.
Roll vote, Councilman Hughes?
Yes.
Councilwoman Menzer?
Yes.
Councilman Jaslowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes. Resolution 11, 2016-2, resolution exceeding the New York State mandated 2% tax cap for 2017. The town of Rosendale must fund the cost of increasing health care, bond payments, improving facilities, state mandated salary increases, et cetera, and it is necessary to have the local law in effect in order to override the New York State mandated tax cap. And whereas the town board of the town of Rosendale is concerned that meeting the tax cap would put fiscal stress on the town, and whereas this resolution is adopted pursuant to subdivision 5 of General Municipal Law 3C, which expressly authorizes the town board to override the tax levy limit by the adoption of a resolution approved by a vote of 60% of the town board. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Rosendale, County of Ulster, is hereby authorized to adopt the budget for fiscal year 2017. That requires a real property tax levy in excess of the amount otherwise prescribed in General Municipal Law 3C.
I'll second. Yes.
So it's local law.
Yeah. I think it's a local law.
Yeah. That was kind of up.
Jill, are we only doing a resolution for this?
I think that's just what we've done in the past.
Oh, it expressly authorizes the town board to override the tax levy limit adoption of a resolution, it says. You wanna look it up?
I was gonna look it up.
Yeah, just double check. I'm pretty sure I sent it last year.
Well, the reason I wanted to approve it today is because that's to get sent in tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it can still get approved, I just have to, because it says up here to have local law in effect in order to override.
Well,
Because you can just change the wording to local law in the
I mean-
resolution.
The thing is, it would make sense because they necessary.
I think it is a local law, but I don't know if it becomes a multi-resolution, because we did it, this is the way we've done it, so I'm not sure. Well, Mary Liz?
I mean, I could go forward and forward. Just double check.
I don't think we've done local laws in the past, but
What's that, Jill?
I don't think we've done local laws for it in the past.
All right, I'll make them a motion to pass, let me amend this. To read, local law if necessary, how about this?
Yeah, that's fine, because then I can just, yeah, 'cause it's the same word. And all it's just.
It'll say local law
Yeah,
instead.
that's it.
And then Chris was the second.
Uh,
Was it Jen?
Jen second.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, lady.
I seconded closing the hearing.
Roll vote, Councilman Hughes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Menzer.
Yes.
Councilman Jaslowski.
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt.
Yes.
That was pretty good. You have the bell go on?
Yeah.
When we do something important?
Yep. Anyway. Did you find anything, Jen?
While they're looking, I remembered one other item that we did, one other aspect.
It looks
of-
like you could do either, but that's what it looks like to me. But we should check with Mary Lou.
What were you gonna say, Chris?
Also, well, just the wording of the resolution reminded me that one other aspect of our discussions have been,
Oh,
and this is for the public's concern about exceeding the tax cap, that our savings, our contingency was in such a state that if we continue to draw down further, it would affect our rating.
Yep.
In which case, if anything did happen and we had to go for an emergency loan, bond, bam, we were going to get a higher percentage rate. So there was that level of concern as well when we were looking at how to address the next budget.
Very true.
We tried to think of everything. We know we didn't get it all. I know we didn't get it all. But we tried.
Hey, Jill. Everything's good?
Yep.
All right. We have a change order for the Still Pond work. I'm not gonna go over it in any detail, but this was a request by Terry to have this done, and, these turbidity meter needed to be added. So, we'll do that next week. Just add it to that. We'll also have to add, next week, when we do the approval of the budget, the tax levies for delinquent water and sewer levies. Teresa's working on them, and she knows that she has to have them ready next Wednesday.
It does have to be a local law. It does have to be.
Okay, so amend that to a local law then.
Yeah, it's just the word. Well, it was my mind.
So, we don't have any, well, before we get to that, we have a situation that I want to review with you guys about holiday benefit time off. Our handbook says one thing, there's been some practice that's really something different. I'd like to review this, talk about how it affects the youth and recreation programs. I don't believe, first of all, let me just say, I don't believe that rec or youth workers who are scheduled to work on, in a program that typically would be open on holiday, like Labor Day or Halloween, whatever it is, but Columbus Day is a good example where, you know, we're open for pool staff is gonna be open at least on 3 holidays. And they're not really holidays because they're temporarily hired to work those days. So I don't think that should be counted as holidays. But I also, you know, for the youth workers, you know, Matt's trying to plan all these programming, we can't afford
On
to do it
holidays.
on holidays. We
Yeah.
can't do it if we're gonna, so I'd like to amend the handbook that, you know, temporary help, summer help, and youth programming are not eligible for time and a half for working a holiday. But if they do work a holiday, they can have another day off. Like if it's Monday,
Right.
they can have Tuesday off, or, you know, work it out with the other, with the department. They pick their holiday, kind of like what we do at the transfer station, they get a different day off. So it's already in our handbook that it's allowed. I talked to our labor attorney because of the way it's worded with highway and transfer station. So, but just to be a little bit more clear, I thought we should do a resolution next week to just really spell it out that those are not holiday double, you know, time and a half positions. Then the other thing that's come up is in the handbook, if you work a Monday, you get a holiday for a Monday. If you work a Friday and, you know, you don't normally work Mondays, you don't get anything. The practice along the way somehow changed, whether it was a resolution that I cannot figure out how that changed. But the practice has been that if you're 30, let's for instance say you're a 30-hour employee and you only work, you might work 8 hours on a Monday or you might have off on a Monday, you're gonna get, because you're a 30-hour person, you're gonna get prorated time off, so you're gonna get 6 hours off as a holiday time. Where, you know, a 40-hour person gets 8 hours. So somewhere along